difference, one cup at a time. Yeah, this is tea time. Yeah, making a difference, one cup at a time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time, time.
Well, welcome. It is tea time again. That's right, Miss Liz in the house here tonight. And it is an evening tea time. So tonight I am joined with Annie Chiappetta, and she will be sharing on the incredible work that she's doing. She's an advocate, she's an author, she's a multimedia specialist. She's a woman with many talents and traits. So I'm just going to do the little disclaimer and then I'll do some of her bio and then we will bring her into the studio. So, disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Times live shows. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith, however, may bring forward dialogue and opinions that may not represent my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participation are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion form only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about this disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in this show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. Should you decide that this show is not for you at this time, I respect that choice and I will see you at a future show in the future. So now a little bit on the incredible guest that I have joining me tonight for tea. And boy, does she have an incredible story. So a little bit on Annie Chiappetta. She's an author and multimedia specialist, making meaningful connections. The author of 5 fiction and nonfiction books. Annie's poems, creative nonfiction essays, and fictions are featured in anthologies, online magazines, blogs, and small press reviews. And he's excited to be the new host of WDOMI Chats and Connect podcasts and hopes to bring an increased audience and appreciation of the meaning of the word disability. With energy and wild open lens, Annie is also a co-host of Friends in Art of ACB Art Patrol podcast. Prior to the pandemic pause, Annie visits schools and organizations in Westchester County presenting a disability awareness and people with disability programs to K and 6th grade students. For more on Annie's, you can check out her website at anniechiappetta.com to purchase her books, listen to her poetry essays, and view video performances, or to request Annie as a guest speaker. For furthermore on Annie, you can check out her full bio on Miss Liz's Tea Time Facebook page or LinkedIn. And I'm going to bring Annie in so we can have some tea together. So welcome, Annie. It is nice to have you here.
Hi, Miss Liz. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. How are you?
I am good. And yourself?
I am well. I'm happy because it's not 85 or 90 degrees and so hot you can't help it. It's a nice breezy day today.
It is a nice day, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So a little bit more on you, Annie, if you'd like to share with the viewers and listeners out there tonight.
Sure. I've been writing since I was a little kid, and I've always been interested in the arts. I'm a creative person. My mind's always going. When I grew up in a little town in Westchester, I had vision. I had, thick glasses, but I could still see. And then eventually, I lost my vision due to a retinal disease, and now I'm almost functionally blind. But it's been 30 years, and I've had a blessed life. I have a wonderful family, and I've been able to help other people in my career. And now here I am. I was able to retire a little bit earlier than expected, and it was like a windfall for me personally and creatively. And I've been pursuing my writing and my creativity, and making connections with other people, and just moving forward. So I've really had, you know um, a pretty rocky start in my life, and now it's turned out to be a benefit for me. So I feel like I have some of the tools and skills that I need to just help myself and then help other people as well.
So, when did you start writing, Annie?
I started writing seriously in college because everybody knows that when you go to college, you have to write a lot, right? Doesn't matter whether you take biology or whether I take economics, you've got to write a lot. So that's really how it started. I was writing poetry as a way to cope with my vision loss, but I really wasn't doing more than a few poems a month and stuff like that. My interest in writing really blossomed in college, and then I got some really great mentors. And those people encouraged me to keep going, to keep digging, to keep learning, and to keep reading. And I did. Didn't let it stop me. There were times where I was like, "Oh, I can't. There's no way I can get better." And then someone would encourage me, and I would get better. So um, don't I would say to people, don't ever give up. If you want something bad enough, you'll find a way to keep going and achieve it.
Well, I think that's how we learn, right? Through repetition. If we keep
Hmm.
continuing to do and do and do, and we do all need those mentors and coaches out there.
Yeah.
Everyone could use a good coach or an accountability partner, especially.
Yes.
Somebody who says, "Hey, get this done. Did you get it done?" No.
Oh, I didn't do it today. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I really encourage everyone to get an accountability partner. Even Miss Liz needs one. So if anybody wants to be my partner, go ahead. Uh,
For
so I see
sure.
here, Anne, that you wrote some book. You wrote your first one in 2016, The Unwelling Poem. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Upwelling was written pretty much because my mom, um, the year before, had died of cancer, and before she died, her last wish for me was to be published. She always encouraged my poetry, and she was a poet herself, and she just said, you need to do this. Find a way to do it. So that was for my mom. And then I realized, wow, I can do this thing called, publishing. I did it myself. I'm actually an independently published author.
Oh,
I do
wow.
have, yeah, I have a writing preparation service that I work with that helps me with the things that I can't connect with myself in terms of my disability and technology. Because some things like on Amazon or on uploading the book and doing the proofreading and the covers, it's all visual, and I don't have vision, so I find that I do better if I work with a team of people that I trust to help me get my book published, and that's worked very well. So, and then in 2017, I wrote a memoir called Follow Your Dog, A Story of Love and Trust. And that was about my life growing up visually impaired, and how having relationships with my own dogs growing up prepared me for my relationship with my guide dogs. And that's probably my best selling book right now. And then I went on to a collection of poetry and nonfiction essays. That's called Words of Life, and that was fun. I collected all this stuff over the years and put it all together and said, "Here you go, world, read it." So, and then I did short stories. I had 14 short stories. Uh, it was in 2020. It's called A String of Stories from the Heart to the Future, And that was fun as well because they're all different genres and everything, and there's something in there for everybody. And then my recent book is my novel called Hope for the Tarnished, and it was just released in March.
Yeah, I have here March 2022.
Yes.
So that's the last one. That's the
Hmm.
newbie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was listening to you as you were sharing, Annie, the trust, because you don't have the visual, right? So you're putting all of this work together. You really have to trust that team that they're doing the best for you, right?
Yes, you do. Yeah, and it's hard. At first I almost gave up. I said, "There's nobody I know. I can't find anybody to help me. I can't find the right people. I can't find, the way. It's just something that happens. When you work with a team of your coworkers, you click with somebody, and I wasn't able to find that. And then I read somebody else's book, and at the end of her book, there was like a call to action page, and it said,
Okay.
"If you liked my book, here's my editors, contact them and let them know you want to write your own book." And that's what I did, and they got back to me like 2 days later, and that was it. It was like magic. Poof, and has and could do books. So it was a gift, another gift given to me. So
And you just mentioned something that I don't hear too often, a call to action in the book. I don't see that very often in a book.
yeah, I have other independent authors that I know that often put call to action at the end of the book. If you like my book and you want to support me, you can go to my website, or you can go to my Patreon page, things like that. So I do try to put something like that in the back of each of my books, just to keep people, give them an option. You want to text me or call me or email me, I'm totally up for that. I'm not going to hide from the public. Why should I?
Yeah. I really like that. I think more books need that call
Yeah.
the action, because that stays connected, right? You read the
Yes.
story, you read the poems, you read the essays, but then where do you go? You put the book down or you pass the book along, but having a call to action, you can actually reach out to the author and get to know the author a little bit better. I really like that, Annie.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
So you started your first book in 2016, as you said here, your Unwelling Poems. So how many poems did you put in your first book?
My first book has about 40 poems. Uh, and then the Words of Life, which is a combination of poems and essays, there's 40 pieces, but it's different. It's essays and poems. So, and I actually, some of my poetry is very short, so I
Okay.
like to try to buffer it up a bit with some of the essays, and it's worked out really well. And I think my next collection is going to be like that too, because I really like the way it balanced itself out. I don't know when I'm going to write that next collection. I'm still
Well,
collecting.
you just came up with one in March here of this year, girl.
What can I say? I don't know. It's
You
like
you've
a
been
potato chip. You can't just have just one. It's like once I get going, it was like opening the floodgates, and all this stuff came out.
yeah, you wrote in 2016, 2017, 2019, 2020,
Hmm.
20. So you've been writing. You've been pretty busy every year.
Yeah.
So I want to get into a little bit of the advocacy work that you do. What kind of work do you do, and who do you actually reach out to bring awareness?
Sure. Well, I started out just advocating for myself as a blind person. I joined a couple of blindness organizations, uh, just for the camaraderie and the connection, because I didn't know anybody else like me who was blind. I was the only one in my family, so I needed that connection. I needed that commonality, and a way for me to understand there are other people like me who were going through the same things that I was going through, who felt similar emotions and feelings, and who had more to share. Like, using a white cane, that's a tool, but there were more things in, like how to go in a restaurant and handle yourself, how to ask for help. That was a big deal, asking for help, because it opens you up to a feeling a little bit of vulnerability. And you have to be okay with that, asking for help. And when you're a visually impaired person or a person with some type of disability, you need help from people often when you're out in public or whatever. So being in touch with other people like me was my first step into advocacy. And then I just kind of felt like it was a natural thing for me to speak up. Um, and there were times where if I was, for instance, if I went into a restaurant with my guide dog and the person would look at me and say, no, you're not allowed, I would need to advocate for myself. And at first it was hard, and I would get really angry and very like emotional about it. And then as I taught myself to stay calm and be knowledgeable and know when to just say, okay, I'm backing off, I'm not coming into this restaurant, or no, I'm not going to back off, and I'm going to let you guys know what the rules are. um, it helped me grow personally. It helped me become a stronger person, a more empathetic person. It helped me help other people develop those soft skills. And I'm a therapist by training. And I thought, I knew it all, being a therapist and having a master's degree, but I didn't know anything until, you know, I walked into that first restaurant with my guide dog and was told, no, we don't want you. You have a dog, get
Wow.
out of here. That was horrible, horrible experience. Um, and I had to learn how to balance that with the skills that I needed to just live my life. And then, I started talking to other people, and we all started a group together. And now our group goes out to help all different people. We give presentations to children. We before COVID, we were going into some of the nursing homes and just telling some of the visually impaired residents, yeah, we feel the same way you do, and these are some of the things you could do to help yourself, and giving them some advocacy skills and some independent living skills. And so that's how it all started. It's very organic for me. It doesn't, I don't, I don't like, I have a list and I have to get, no, it's like, oh, okay. Somebody asked me to come speak on something. I say, all right, I'll come talk, and then I'll go talk, that kind of thing. So
So, how old were you when you got your first guide dog?
I was in my late 30s. I didn't actually lose enough of my vision to get a guide dog until I was in my late 30s. I had too much vision until then. So my first dog I got in 2009, and then she worked 6 years, and then I retired her and got my second dog in 2015. And he's with me still, but he's getting ready to retire. He's an old man.
So, is there a certain age bracket, like for how long you can have a guide dog?
For the dog itself, Uh, usually people start thinking if the dog doesn't have any other mitigating health conditions or anything, between the ages of 8 and 11. Depends on the
Oh,
dog, what they're expected to do, where they live, what your lifestyle is like. The more athletic dogs that are always on the go, like in the city and, with young people, they tend to retire a little earlier because, they wear themselves out, from the stress of the work and stuff. But like dogs like my dog, he has a pretty easy life. He only works a couple of days a week. Um, so I could probably work him until he decides he just doesn't like it anymore. So, um, it depends. It depends on a lot of things.
wow. And again, that trust, right? You really need
Yeah.
the trust, right? Because you have to trust the dog to for the dog to know that it's going to protect you, right? And it's going to.
It's yeah, it's the hardest part of training with a dog is letting the dog make the decisions. It's it's hard,
Yeah,
and it takes time.
it's got to be a process, right? It's not something that happens overnight. It must
No,
take some time to adjust, especially if you're
yeah,
used to a dog for so many years and then you start with a new one. It's almost
mhm,
like relearning everything again, right?
totally. I mean, like the husbandry end of it, that how the dog is going to eat and how you're going to groom it and all that, and how to work with the dog and give it the commands. But then the actual teamwork is the part that takes the longest.
I like the word teamwork.
Mm.
Because we need trust to have teamwork, right? To
Yeah,
get through
that's right.
anything, we need that trust, right? So I
Yeah.
think this is a good time to ask you, Annie, what would your tea be if I asked you what your tea is?
My T would be um, touch, empathy, and awareness. I bring those three levels into my life every day in different ways. Um, and uh, touch would mean touching other people with my writing, or physically touching, like my dogs and my family, uh, and just staying connected, having that connection. Um, so that would be touch. And then the empathy is I'm extremely empathetic and empathic person, and I lean on that a lot in my life to guide me. And I've learned to take both the empathy piece and uh, the my inner connection with things to guide me. And I just find it I find it I trust my inner self, and I trust that extra little piece that we have um, inside us, and it's done me right many times. And the advocacy, awareness, the big A. I mean, my name is Anne, so I like the letter A. What can I say? But I I think the uh, from having been a person that had vision to someone who has lost their sight, um, I've learned over time how to develop a lot of my survival skills, and now I thrive, and that's because of the advocacy and the awareness. So that's my tea.
No, I think that's a really strong tea, and I think that is your
Yeah.
tea of life because touching, and you've always wanted to touch through your words, and then your sight was taken, so you learned to touch in a different way, so it stayed with
Yeah.
you. So you had different ways of touching people, and the empathy. I honestly see that with you in the present, and because you're really open and wanting to share different with people and showing them that that you do matter just because you have no you're losing your sight, and that you can still make a difference, you can still impact people's lives, and that
Yes.
and, and the awareness that yeah, that's you, that's you all the way, that's the triple A, like you said, and advocacy, awareness, that is truly you. And I see you doing that in the future for a very long time, bringing awareness to incredible things, you know now, you also
Yeah.
mentioned that you speak to children in grade K to grade 6. I'm guessing kindergarten to grade 6.
Yeah, our county has a people with disabilities department, or
Okay.
and one of the women that works there asked me about 10 years ago, would you be interested in coming into classrooms and talking about your disability? And I said, sure. Um, so what we do is we do a disability awareness program, and I come in with Bailey, my guide dog, and talk about being visually impaired. And then we also have some people from one of our local cerebral palsy um, uh, facilities, and they talk about being in wheelchairs, what it's like to be a person in a wheelchair, and their specific disabilities, whether it's cerebral palsy or amputation or whatever. And we all get together and we sing a song, and we get these kids interested in not being afraid to ask questions.
I love that.
Questions are good. Questions are healthy. Questions are important.
Uh,
Your curiosity. I want these kids to be curious and ask, and so it has been going um, pretty well. And now we're doing bigger, older kids in their disability awareness programs around the county. These are in public schools, in private schools. So it doesn't really matter, where the kids are, being educated. We go anywhere. And when I get to do the larger audiences with like 120 kids in an assembly and stuff, the energy is amazing. And I got to tell you, when I finally start talking and every single eye is on me, it's like an awesome feeling. It's like the touch, what I talked about, like that connection. It's like magic, and that's
Right.
why I do it.
Even though you can't see, and you can still feel the touch of the eyes, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
So for all the listeners out there, the viewers that are listening or that will watch the replay later, could you give them a little example of what the touch of the eye means?
The touch of the eye. Well, that means a lot of things to me. But like in that instance of being on stage with all those eyes on me, I feel that I'm giving them a gift, and they're giving me a gift in return. They're giving me their attention, their words when they do speak, and their curiosity comes from the heart. They really want to know what it's like for me. They might ask me things like, "Were you scared?" or "Is it hard?" or "Do people treat you?" Mean, and things like that. And those are the conversations that I have, like, a lot with a lot of the older kids. But also touch and the eye means, when to me, it goes back when I was a therapist and I would be in the room with somebody in intense emotional pain, and even though I couldn't see them, I felt like my inner eye could still see them. And I know it sounds a little bit, uh, you know, out there in terms of, people may, okay, that sounds a little like, woo woo, but it's
Actually,
true.
it makes a lot of sense because even when you have your eyes closed, for anyone out
Yes.
there who would just like to try this, if you just close your eyes and you have the person in the room with you just look at you, I'm sure you can feel them looking at you.
Yeah.
When we just close our eyes, sometimes we can feel the third eye, and it's not a wooey wooey. It's
Mm-mm.
actually the sense of the mind and the body
Yes.
connection, and that's why I wanted
Yes.
you to share that, Annie, is because for the children out there that are listening and the adults that are listening to the show tonight or the replay, the importance of our sight, the importance of paying attention. Annie, you do incredible work. You bring a lot of advocacy and awareness, and you still, what really truly inspires me is the writing, putting all that faith and trust into other people to put your work out there, you know,
Mm,
the trust. Trust is a
yeah.
huge thing for me, Miss Liz. So
Okay.
I, I'm just like, how do you trust someone so much that you give them that faith, right? You have the faith to believe in them that they're going to do well for you, so
Yeah. Yeah.
you're really teaching me something tonight, and
Well, that
like,
that trust is part of your tea, I guess, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's something you develop over time. It's something um, that I know doesn't come easily. I Working with trauma uh, patients in my work when I was with the VA. There would be people who would say, "Yeah, I trust you," and you knew, like, no way.
yeah,
Like, they're
yeah,
saying it, but they're not feeling it,
yeah,
and then there were people who would hold back, and then there would be that key moment where you knew that you
yeah,
made that connection with them, and they didn't even have to say it. You just knew
yeah,
it. Um, and then staying with that, and how different levels of trust come with different people and different situations. And like, with my guide dog, the level of trust with Bailey is, only another person who has a guide dog or working dog will understand how I feel about him. I
Yeah.
mean, I know it sounds a little bit trite and maybe overused, and but it's true. Only
Yeah.
someone else who knows, who understands working with a dog like Bailey will get it. And I can, and I'm hoping that when I write what I write, it helps other people understand that connection, so they can maybe open themselves to something that they maybe have been blocking, or that's what I hope about my writing, that it helps people explore and be curious about themselves too.
Well, and you're actually teaching me a lot tonight, and because I say it all the time, unless you go through it, you cannot understand it. You can say I understand, but you don't. Unless you live
Mm,
it, unless you're experiencing it, you truly don't understand it, you know?
yeah.
And I don't think it's oversaid or anything. It's the real truth, right? The truth is, unless you live it, you do not understand it. You do not know it, but you could
Mm,
try to understand a little bit and try and be supportive of the different ways and the different traits and patterns that we do, to
mhm,
survive and to get through. And trust is a big thing. And you're really showing me a lot with the word trust tonight, Anne, because you're trusting
mm.
me to be on tea time, and you're trusting to share your story with me. So I really want to thank you for that. I'm really honored for that. I want to get into your poetry and your essays. Do you have a favorite one out of all of the work that you've done?
Why'd you have to ask that question? That question is like, um,
They're all my babies.
they're all my babies. They're all my favorites. Everyone is the favorite. I think my some of my favorite poetry is the poetry that I wrote about working with my guide dog Verona, because she was
Okay.
a very special dog, and um, I wrote a couple of poems and one or two essays with her in mind, and um, those are really. And sometimes when I read them aloud, I still get verklempt. I still get all like choked up, and that's how I know they still mean so much to me. Is that I read them and I'm like, oh, hope I can read it.
What
Um,
was I thinking when I wrote this one?
right? It just makes me emotional. It makes me so like, oh my god. So those are my favorites. I really like my short stories. I don't know if anybody else does, but I really like writing lots of short stuff. And uh, I have some of my favorite short stories in the collection, and I'm hoping that I have another collection at some point soon. So yeah, but and I like writing haiku. I don't know if I'm any good at it, but
Oh,
I
I've
find
never
that
heard of that.
it's a Japanese form of poetry, and it's
Okay.
3 lines, and it's 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables, and it's supposed to intertwine observations in nature and the human condition in a way
Oh,
that, yeah. So I mean, and it takes some practice, but it's fun, and when it's done right, it's pretty powerful. So yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that all kinds of writing that I've done that, some of it I'm not so good at. Like, I'm not good at sonnets and rhyming and all that. I'm more of a free verse, or rhythm, but not necessarily rhyming. And that's all part of my self-discovery as a writer. Over time, I've learned what I'm good at, what I'm not so good at, and just pursue the things that I know I could be better at.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Well, and there's different forms of writing, right? Because I'm the same way. I don't like to rhyme my poems. I kind of like to just express how I'm feeling in the moment. What's resonating, what needs to be coming out. And sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, that's a little dark there. That's a little heavy." But at that moment, that's what needed to come out, right? And
yes,
So I want to get back to the children. You talked to kindergarten and grade six. So the kindergarten, has there been anything that's really impact or changed your life by speaking with these young children?
Wow, interesting question. I think the most that's impactful for me is the way the teachers respond in the classes after a presentation. They often come up to me and they're gushing like, "Thank you so much. This was so wonderful." We watched those kids' faces, and they would just you know re- you know uh, they would say things like, we never saw them give somebody so much attention. They all looked like they really were listening. Their questions were really great. You really helped them understand. And then the teachers were like, you really helped us understand. And, so I think that um, the increase of awareness has really been the impactful thing about the younger kids. And with the older kids, it's all about, they start making connections with emotions and feelings and thoughts and things like that. So now when you get to the older classes, if a kid asks, were you scared when you found out that you were going to lose your vision? And I would say, yeah, I was. And then, I'd let that sit there for a while, and then I would say, but, I'm here now. And do I look scared? You know, do I feel like, my life is over? No, you know, and I think that makes it clicks with them. And I think that's really cool. Making a connection like that with younger people is going to help them be more empathetic and more sympathetic to other people like me when they grow up. Maybe they'll become a guide dog trainer. Maybe they'll become a braille instructor. Maybe they'll learn how to design better wheelchairs for people. Maybe they'll become an eye surgeon. You don't know. These are
Yeah.
these are all developing, and if I can just influence one of those children to be more open to people with disabilities, or to that vulnerability, then I've done a wonderful thing. So
Yeah. Well, I see you planting seeds, like you mentioned the
yeah,
guide
yeah.
dogs and the specialists and
hmm
stuff like that. You also mentioned the Braille. How long did it take you to learn Braille?
Oh, Braille. Braille. So Braille is an essential tool for anyone who has lost vision when they're young to become literate. Now, I grew up with vision, so I didn't need to learn Braille until later. So I wasn't until I was 30 that I started to learn Braille, and it's exactly like learning a different language. And it took me a long time to just learn the Braille alphabet and learn how to uh, get through reading simple things. And to this day, I still struggle with it. And I have what they call survival Braille skills. I can read
Okay.
elevator buttons and signs and simple numbers and letters in grade one Braille, but I've never really become a fluent Braille reader, and I don't know if I ever will. I can't make that connection between my fingers and my head. And I don't know, maybe one day, maybe if I have enough time and I really immerse myself in it again, I could probably get better. But I don't think I'll ever be able to like just read Braille and just talk out loud while I'm reading Braille. I don't think I could ever do that. It hurts my brain. So, but other people I know have been blind, since birth, or or what since when they young. They are fluent Braille readers, and it keeps it keeps them connected, and their education going. And Braille is important, and it always will be.
So,
So
if you had a chance, would you have learned Braille before losing your sight?
I think my parents and my school were just ignorant to the fact that I had low vision and that I had my eye problems. I probably should have gotten some Braille when I was young, because I would hold the book like so close you could like touch my nose to the page, and I think
Wow.
that I would have definitely benefited from Braille. Yeah,
Now,
but
is there Braille in all schools in the United States, or
there is supposed to be. um, a braille, like, so if your child needs braille, um, from in their primary school education, they get an IEP,
Okay.
an individualized education program,
Yep.
and then they're requested to have a braille, to have a TVI, which is a teacher of the visually impaired, to come in and resource out their braille skills during the regular um, classroom day, so they don't so they're mainstreamed, because it's all about being mainstreamed now. And so they'll get a certain amount of time to learn their braille, and then the other amount of time to just be a regular student. And depending on where you live, and how good your school district is about meeting the needs of the child, that child will get what they need. I know a couple of people that I've known over the years that had an aide, and uh, a TVI follow them and shadow them through school, so that they could get their braille skills going, and also you know keep on top of things in terms of the curriculum. And but I do know people that where the districts failed to do that, and they got very little or no braille support. So it's not an even thing across the board in the United States, and it's sad, because
Yeah.
the child gets left behind, and then they're expected to graduate high school. They don't have the right skills, and then how are they going to float in college and get a good education when they don't even know how to support themselves and their needs. And it's, I've seen both sides of it, and
Yeah.
it just it upsets me, because, it should be something that is obvious. A child can't see, they learn braille, and that should be it. They should be able to learn and get to the support, so that they get the equality that they need in their education. And it's better, but it's still not where it should be.
So, as an advocate, what changes would you like to see made in the school systems for Braille?
Well, part of it is that the teachers themselves are very scattered. It's
Okay.
not. I don't think being a teacher of the visually impaired, an orientation and mobility instructor, um, pay well, so it's not an attractive um, uh, professional. Uh, so they have to really want to be one of those people. It's like a calling, like a nurse.
Okay.
Um, and I think that's part of it too. You know, they they're just and a lot of it is um sporadic. Like, there might be schools in districts that have no visually impaired kids, then there might be school districts that have many of them, and so it's I don't know what the answer is. I just know that we need a better system all across the board, that brings the support into the schools when it's needed, in a timely way. And um, sometimes it doesn't work, and I think when it doesn't work, they should be held accountable.
Exactly. I feel the same way, if we can make a change, even if it's one extra school who has Braille, well,
Yeah,
one school at a time, one district at a time, we really do make a difference when we just start doing it one at a time. We don't have to do it all at once. Let's start little and build it up, but one less
yeah.
school, one less child, suffering because they don't have the right services or the right classes. I also noticed in your resume, in your resume, in your in your bio. There we go, Miss Liz spilling the tea. I'm just, but I just noticed in your bio that you work with the veterans. Is What do you do with the veterans, Anne?
Well, I've retired from doing work with veterans, but for 10 years I was a trauma counselor,
Okay.
uh, for um, for veterans coming back from deployments, and I worked as a family therapist in my capacity with them. Excuse me, with veterans and their families. So often that would mean the veteran would come back and would want to reacclimate into regular, civilian society, and they would have problems, just shedding their uniform and being a civvy, being a regular person, and not being, in the military anymore. And um, there was a lot of adjustment and transition for both the veteran and the family, and that's what I would do. I would help them, and I worked a lot with Vietnam veterans, Vietnam era veterans, because they came back with a lot of post traumatic stress, a lot of trauma from the pain and the witnessing horrible things uh, in war. And um, I would, when I could, I would take their pain for a little while and try to let them, you know, get some peace. And hopefully through time and talk therapy, they would learn how to manage their trauma or their post-traumatic stress or their medical issues or all of them together. Often um, it was a lot of comorbidity going on between physical um, pain from being injured and more, and the mental issue um, from witnessing all those horrific things, and then just learning how to be a person again, and not just be a reactive um, emotional mess. And a lot of them, I mean, I'll always remember every one of them that I helped treat. I'll never forget any of them. Um,
You really have impacted a lot of people's lives, by showing that you can still continue on and show the empathy and have that support and understanding for others, you know, even with the
thanks.
children and the veterans and, your family and your coworkers that you work with when you're writing these books. The empathy shows deeply in your work, and I really want to thank you for that, because it takes a good person and it takes a lot of work for empathy, especially in this world today. We are lacking empathy, and you have really brought a lot of it to the table tonight and shared it with the guests and the listeners out there. Now, you gave me the word intuitive for the one word that would describe you as a person. What does that word mean to you?
Oh, intuition. Wow.
Intuition, that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So, um, intuition with me would mean knowing my friend was going to call before the phone rings. That's one of the things that happens to me a lot. Uh, Sometimes in my dreams, I'll dream something is going to happen and then it will happen. So those kinds of things. But it also means, going back to that trust. Like if you have if you're intuitive and you understand who you are, how you think, how your feelings and emotions and your emotional intelligence can help you um, just uh, manage your life, uh, and and that flows over into helping managing other people in your life when they need it, helping them out and giving them your sense of interest, and really being listening and really hearing people and their problems and stuff. That's part of intuition too, because if you don't listen to what is going on inside of you, then you're not going to be tuned into other people either. So intuition is important. Some of us are more tuned into like just the natural part of our, you know, the earth and stuff like that. Some people are less tuned into it, but I think we all have an intuition. We all have a little seed, like you said, and I think we deserve to allow ourselves to make it grow and let it happen. And you know, sometimes it's really cool. Like, you don't understand why things happen. People say, "Oh, well, that's a coincidence." Well, maybe it wasn't a coincidence. Maybe it wasn't on purpose.
Yep.
So,
You just never know, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I also asked you when we set up your tea time what your favorite color was, and you said blue. And I realized that you're
yes.
wearing blue tonight, just like I am. I'm wearing blue as well. So, what does
Uh,
blue mean to you?
oh, blue is the universe. Blue is this opportunity of growth and reaching out to infinity. Um, I'll tell you an interesting story about blue. Um, One of the most popular pictures ever, um, that people downloaded or would go to the internet to look for was um, this photograph taken, I think it was by an astronaut. I don't remember who. It was called Earthrise, and it was the sun coming up over the edge of the Earth, looking out from coming. Look, the picture was from space, and the sun was coming up over the Earth, and it was the most downloaded picture ever. And when I could still see, I would look at that picture, that photograph, and just get lost in it. And that's kind of what blue means to me. Blue means everything from, a blueberry to infinity, the universe. So
I love it because blue is my favorite color, blue and orange. And you just gave me another way of looking at blue. For me, it was the clouds and the water because I always go to the water to calm myself down.
mhm.
And the sky, look up at the sky. But you really went deep, like into the universe and into. I'm gonna look for this picture because I'm curious what this picture looks like.
It's called Earthrise. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
So, any final words that you would like to leave with the listeners out there?
Um, well, I'll plug my website. It's www.anchiappetta.com. I have everything there. You can know everything about Annie going to that website. Um, and I, what do I want? I just want people um, to be able to share this. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, all my information, is public. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. But I think more of this kind of uh, get together between two people and the sharing and the opening is really what I've been looking for. Uh, you know, um, and I really appreciate what you're doing and how I've made a connection, um, just through a word, just through tea. Simple word. Words are important. Um, Words help us connect. Words help us heal. Words are a part of the human condition and who we are. And I'd like to thank everybody for listening to me. And, um, if you'd like to read my books, that's great. Um, but I think just to keep going and keep connecting with one another and um, finding ways to expand our awareness and be kind and you know
Well, before we wrap up your tea time, Annie, I want to get into. I just noticed that I forgot something here. The thoughtwheel.com. Could you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Sure. Thoughtwheel.com is my blog. I usually blog once or twice a month. I usually have just, lots of different kind of stuff. I could always use more followers on my blog. I talk about life. I talk about what it's like being visually impaired. I talk about my dogs. I talk about my husband. And I put some poems up there sometimes and, all of my media sources. And I have a newsletter I do once a month that's up there as well. And I use Thought Wheel as a way to just put my thoughts out there. I try to keep it, interesting, and it's not high traffic, so you're not going to get bombarded with all these things. But yeah, it's Thought Wheel is just a way for me to let people, see who I am.
Well, thank you so much for sharing tonight, Annie. I really appreciate having you here. And I really like that you said that we need more open dialogue because I'm a firm believer that we need to start having the conversations. We need to start sitting down one on one and having that open conversation and understanding a person understanding what they're going through and not be so quick to judge that what we don't understand. So I really want to thank you, Annie, for joining me tonight on Tea Time and for sharing your tea. Touch, empathy, and awareness, a really strong, powerful tea. And for anybody who would like to know more on Annie, you can check her out on her website, or you can check out Miss Liz's Tea Times Facebook page. All of her information is there. All of her detail is there. For anyone who's listening to the audio of tonight's Tea Time, all of it will be in the description box, so you can find all of that information there as well. And for all the listeners and viewers that tuned in tonight, thank you. I really appreciate your support. And I will see everyone on July 14th for 2 tea times. That's right. I'm doing 2 that day. So I have 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, I believe, or afternoon. Is it the afternoon or evening? I'm just checking here. In the afternoon. So we have 1 at 10 a.m. and we have 1 at 3 p.m. And that day we will be speaking on education with Germana from the United States. And then we will be speaking with BJ Taylor, and she'll be talking to us about the border control. So she has some border stories that she'll be speaking to us about on the Mexican border and the United States border. So that will be interesting. It may be triggering. So again, if the show is too hard for you, please do not tune in. I will not be offended if you don't tune in. I'm not here to trigger anyone. I'm here to only bring inspiration and awareness. And Annie, thank you again for sitting and having tea and sharing with all of us tonight. And again, if anybody would like to reach out to Annie to have her as a guest, because incredible lady, making a difference and opening the doors for awareness on disability and blindness and writing, and the importance of being different is okay. We don't have to be scared of it. We can really enjoy it. So again, Annie, any final words before I close up tonight?
Nope. Thank you. And just be yourself. And everybody else, stay safe, stay healthy, and be well.
Well, thank you so much. And I will see everybody on July 14th for 2 tea times. That's right. Miss Liz always does something different. So we will make a difference 1 cup of tea at a time. And I will see you on July 14th.